Roccat, much like Corsair and Asus, are jumping into the optical mechanical keyboard market with this, the Vulcan TKL Pro. But what makes this different to the Corsair and Asus options and all of the other ones that are emerging onto the market? What makes this one special? What makes you want to buy one of these? Well, let's take a look and find out. Of course, first, if you haven't already, consider subscribing for more videos like this one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The obvious thing we need to talk about first is the whole optical bit. Now, I made a full video, a Tech Explained episode on optical switches, how they work, what the different styles are, the pros and cons, and a whole lot else. So if you want to learn more about them specifically, check out the video in the cards up above. Either way, Roccat have made their own type of switch here. They call it the Titan, and it's pretty much the same as Corsair's OPX and similar to the Asus ones they use in the Scope RX. Basically, it is an infrared beam that the sort of plunger, the moving part of the switch, interrupts, which causes the actuation. That happens at 1.4 millimeters of travel, which is a good bit higher up than a standard Cherry MX Red switch, which is around 2 millimeters, but it isn't quite as fast or snappy as the Corsair's OPX at 1 millimeter. The switches themselves use a standard Cherry stem, albeit with some side supports in there too. And for all intents and purposes, these are very similar in feel to standard Cherry Red switches. They even have actual red stems, just to make that clear. They have a similar force, they are a linear actuation with no tactile bump, and that means that, at least for me personally, they aren't quite my favourite. They do feel alright to game on, they certainly feel very similar to standard Cherry Red switches, and so if you like red style switches, you will probably like these. The keyboard is a little bit on the loud side to type on though. Have a quick listen. Now the keycaps they use here are a little strange. They are incredibly thin, almost look like low profile keycaps, but because of their relatively long stems, they sit pretty high, and I felt like I really needed a wrist rest to make this a comfortable typing or gaming experience, even with the actually fairly nice retractable rubber covered feet down in its lowest position. Either way, the switches, the keycaps, feel okay. They feel a little bit cheap and tacky, but that's personal preference, and overall, it felt decent enough to type on. Gaming on it felt good. This type of switch, the linear style switch, definitely leans itself more towards gaming for me personally, and the higher actuation points did feel a little bit more snappy and responsive, but wasn't so light or so high that I felt I was accidentally pressing keys, just by laying my fingers on them. Otherwise, I didn't really notice a reduction in input lag as you normally expect with this style of switch, although let's face it, we're talking about the difference between 1 to 2 milliseconds to 3 or 4 for this style of keyboard, so realistically you're not going to notice, but of course reducing input lag is always a good thing. I'd be pretty happy to use this as my gaming keyboard, like I do with mice, switching them out. Of course, I wouldn't actually do that. I'm happy using my Cherry MX Brown keyboard, but if you presented this to me and said I had to game on it, I wouldn't turn you down. My only complaint lands squarely on the entire bottom row of the keyboard, because unlike every other key, which is nicely concave to fit your fingers, and that's actually a thing that's on the box as a pro, a bonus, a feature, the entire bottom row is sort of beveled outwards, and so my fingers slip off the lower keys like Control and Space sometimes, which is a little annoying. So that's the switches and caps and gaming experience, but what else does it have? What else does it do? Well, that's the thing, not all that much. You do have some nice additions, like a nice braided USB Type-C cable that's detachable. You have a nicely notched but incredibly cheap feeling plastic dial for things like volume adjustment. Of course, plenty of RGB with their AIMO intelligent lighting software. But other than that, you don't get all that much else. And for £150, I would kind of like to see an extra bell or whistle or two, Asus undercut the whole Vulcan Pro lineup, both the full size and the TKL, by selling their brand new Strix Scope RX that I reviewed recently. That'll be up in the cards above. The thing is, that board costs around £120, is a full size, and arguably has nicer, definitely more unique and interesting switches than the Vulcan Pros, and again, for less money. Also, with the Corsair K100, while that costs a whopping £230, at least they threw every feature that they could think of at the wall to hope one of them sticks in order to justify the insane price tag. I think what I'm saying here is that I feel the Vulcan Pro lineup is probably a little too rich for the market. If they were to bring the price down to match the Strixscope RX or add a few extra features in to help, I guess, justify the extra £30 price tag, then I would be able to more wholeheartedly recommend it. As it stands, this is nowhere near a bad keyboard, and if you can get it on sale, I highly recommend you check it out, especially if you like cherry red switches. But otherwise, well, maybe wait for, Black Friday or January sales or something like that to pick it up. Now, of course, as always, the pricing that I'm talking about here is in the UK at the time of filming, and so depending on when and where you watch this, the pricing could be drastically different. So, as always, there is an affiliate link in the description down below you can check out. That is an Amazon link that will take you to a local Amazon store. We can see all that good stuff. Otherwise, there is a whole load of other links in the description you can check out, from merch or hoodies or t-shirts like this one, or a load of other cool designs. There's Patreon if you want to get ad-free videos or sponsor-free videos, and access to our Money Men Discord chat, and of course support me directly too. And I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think of the Vulcan Pro TKL? Would you get the TKL or the full size? Would you go for the Strixscope RX or the K100 or something else like the Wu-Tang 2? Feel free to let me know in those comments down below. Feel free to check out some more videos over there. I'll leave the Strixscope RX since that's probably the closest competitor to this one for you to check out. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you on the next video.